I want to start today's video by describing two phone calls that happen across childcare centres in Australia every single day. The first call. Hi, I'm calling from your child's childcare centre. I just wanted to let you know that your child has been bitten by another child. They're completely okay, but I wanted to make sure you knew. The second call. Hi, I'm calling from your child's childcare centre. I need to let you know that your child bit another child today. I wanted to talk to you about what happened. Both of those calls cause enormous parental distress. Both of them are happening in childcare centres every single day. And both of them are almost universally misunderstood by the parents receiving them. Today, I want to give you the complete honest picture of biting in childcare from both sides. Why it happens, what it means, what it doesn't mean, what the centre should do and what you should do, whether your child was the one who was bitten or the one who was doing the biting. Because this is one of those topics where the story parents tell themselves is almost always significantly worse than what's actually happening developmentally. Stay to the end though, because I've got a free printable biting guide in the description. Everything from this video in one place for both sets of parents. Let's go. Let me start with the most important thing I want you guys to take from this video. Children who bite in the toddler and preschool years are almost never deliberately being cruel or aggressive. They are responding to something in their developmental experience that they don't yet have the language or the emotional regulation to express any other way. Biting is a communication, a clumsy, painful, completely unacceptable communication, but a communication nonetheless. Understanding what it's communicating is the key to addressing it effectively. Okay, so first up, the most common driver of biting in the 1 to 3 year range is simply that a child doesn't yet have the words for what they're experiencing. Overwhelm, frustration, excitement, the desperate need for something to stop or start. Biting can be the only tool in the kit where language hasn't developed enough yet to do the job. As language develops though, biting almost always reduces. The child who bites at 18 months because they can't say, I need space, often stops entirely by 3 because they now have words for that experience. Okay, so reason 2, sensory seeking. Some children bite because the sensory input of biting meets a genuine neurological need. These children often chew other things too, clothing, toys, their own hands. For them, biting isn't primarily about communication or aggression. It's about sensory regulation. For sensory seeking biters, the intervention is usually about providing appropriate alternatives, chew toys, chewy food textures, other oral sensory input, rather than just purely behavioural strategies. Reason 3, overwhelm and overstimulation. Childcare environments are busy, noisy, socially complex places. For some children, particularly those who are more sensitive or are still developing their capacity to manage stimulation, biting can happen at the point where their nervous system simply cannot manage any more input. These biting incidents, they often happen at predictable times, the busiest part of the day, before lunch when children are hungry or tired, during transitions between activities. Understanding this pattern helps identify the trigger. Reason 4, cause and effect exploration. In the very youngest age group, under 18 months, biting is sometimes simply about discovering cause and effect. I do this thing and something interesting happens. The response from the person who was bitten, the response from educators, the general disruption, all of that is genuinely interesting to a developing brain that's working out how this world works. This type of biting doesn't require heavy intervention. It requires calm redirection and removing the interesting response that's reinforcing it. And the final reason is excitement. This one surprises a lot of parents. Some children bite when they're genuinely excited and happy, particularly with people that they love and feel comfortable with. It's not aggression. It's an overflow of positive emotion that a developing nervous system doesn't yet know how to express properly. Excitement biting often happens with familiar people in positive context. It looks completely different to frustrated or overwhelmed biting if you know what to look for. So, if you received the call that your child was bitten at childcare, I want to start by acknowledging that it is a genuinely upsetting thing to hear. Nobody wants to pick up their child and find a bite mark. The protective instinct that comes up in that moment is completely natural. Here's what I want you to hold on to alongside that instinct. Biting in toddler preschool settings is genuinely common. It happens in every childcare centre. It happens to almost every child at some point in those early years. It doesn't mean that your child's centre is poorly managed. It doesn't mean that your child is being targeted. And it certainly doesn't mean the child who did it is dangerous. So when your child has been bitten, you have the right to know that it happened, where the bite is on your child's body, what first aid was provided, and what immediate steps the centre took in response. You are not entitled, though, to know the name of the child who bit you. Privacy legislation protects that child's identity and their family's privacy. A centre that tells you who did the biting is actually not following best practice, because that information could lead to confrontations between parents that serve nobody. What you can ask: what steps is the centre taking to address the biting pattern? What support is being put in place? And what can you do at home to help? So once you're at home, treat the bite as you would any other minor injury. Clean it, monitor it, seek medical attention if the skin is broken significantly or if you have concerns about infection. Talk to your child about it calmly. At toddler age, keep it very simple. You got a bite today. That hurts. Biting hurts. We don't bite people. Don't ask them to reenact it or tell you everything that happened. Brief, calm, and move on. Try not to communicate your own distress to your child about the incident either. Children take emotional cues from their parents. A parent who is visibly upset about the bite makes the experience way more distressing than the child than it needs to be. Now, if you receive the call telling you that your child bit someone at childcare, I just want to acknowledge something that doesn't get said enough. That call is one of the hardest calls that a parent can receive. The shame that comes with it is real and significant. The fear that your child is somehow bad or broken. The worry about what the other family thinks. The guilt about not having somehow prevented it. All of that is real. And I want you to hear me say, it makes complete sense that you feel that way. But I now want to say something else. Your child biting at childcare does not make them a bad child. It does not make you a bad parent. It does not mean that something is fundamentally wrong with their development either. In the vast majority of cases, it means that they are a toddler or a preschooler who have encountered something they don't yet have the developmental tools to manage without biting. This is fixable. With the right support, the right strategies and time, it almost always resolves completely. So in this case, you can ask the centre to try and help you understand the pattern. When is the biting happening? What's the trigger? What have they tried? What support do they need from you at home to make the strategies consistent? A quality centre will have a genuine plan. They'll be working with you, not just reporting incidents to you. If a centre is calling you repeatedly about biting but has no clear strategy to address it, that's definitely worth pushing on. Keep your response to incidents at home calm and brief. Biting hurts people. We don't bite. Then just redirect to something else. Don't lecture. Don't punish heavily. Don't bite back. This is sometimes suggested as a strategy, and it genuinely doesn't work and can cause significant harm. Work on language at home. The more words your child, needs for their big feelings, the less they need to use their body to communicate with. Name emotions constantly. You look frustrated. That made you really angry. You're so excited. Building that emotional vocabulary does reduce biting. Work on regulation, simple breathing strategies, having a calm down space, practicing what to do when something feels big. All of this builds the internal capacity that makes biting less necessary. Now, I want to give you a clear picture of what a quality childcare centre's response to a biting pattern should look like, because knowing what to expect helps you advocate it effectively if it's not happening. Immediate response. The child who was bitten receives first aid and comfort immediately. The child who did the biting is redirected calmly. The incident is also documented. Both families are notified on the day, not with graphic detail, but with appropriate information about what happened and what the centre did in response. For a child with a pattern of biting, the centre should be conducting a proper analysis of when and why the biting is happening, looking at the triggers, the times, the environments, the interactions, building a genuine picture of what's driving it. They should have a specific support plan for that child, increase supervision in high-risk moments, teaching alternative strategies. Environmental modifications of overstimulation is also a factor. Regular communication with the family about what's working. They should be working with both families, not pitting them against each other, not sharing confidential information about either child with the other family, but supporting both families to understand what's happening and what's being done. What a quality centre should not do: exclude the child who bites without proper support and intervention first, using biting back as a strategy, sharing the identity of the biting child with the bitten child's family. Make the family of the biting child feel like their child is unwelcome. Those are definite no-goes. Most biting in the toddler and preschool years resolves naturally as language and emotional regulation develop. But I want to give you a clear picture of when it's worth seeking additional support. Biting that warrants closer attention. Biting that is increasing in frequency rather than decreasing. Biting that is causing significant injury. Biting that appears completely unprovoked with no identifiable trigger. Biting that continues beyond the age of 4, when language is typically well enough developed to replace it. Biting that is accompanied by other significant behavioural concerns. In these situations, a conversation with a GP and potentially a referral to a paediatrician or child psychologist is worthwhile. Not because something is definitely wrong, but because getting professional eyes on the situation gives you better information than just worrying about it alone. A centre that is proactively suggesting the additional support for a child with significant biting patterns is doing the right thing. It is not a judgment on your child or your parenting. It's appropriate professional advocacy for your child's well-being. Look, I want to speak to both families one more time before I wrap this video up. To the family whose child was bitten today, your child is okay. The bite will heal, and the child who did it is not a threat to your child. They are a toddler navigating a developmental challenge in the only way that they know how. Your child is safe at a quality centre with educators who are taking this seriously. To the family whose child is biting, your child is not bad. You are not a bad parent. This is a developmental phase with the right support or usually always resolves. The shame that you're carrying is not yours to carry. Your child needs support and strategies, not judgment, and you deserve the same. And to both families, the childcare centre is not the enemy here. A quality centre is on both your sides. They want your child to be safe, and they want the child who is biting to find better ways to cope. These two things are not in conflict. They are the same goal. Biting in childcare is one of those topics that causes enormous distress on both sides of the incident. And in almost every case, that distress is significantly greater than the situation warrants developmentally. Your child being bitten is upsetting. Your child doing the biting is shameful and frightening. Both those feelings are valid and real. But the developmental reality is this. Biting is common. Biting is temporary, and biting almost always resolves with the right support and time. The toddler who bites at 18 months is almost never still biting at 4 years old. The free printable biting guide I've got is in the description below. Everything from this video in one place for both sets of parents, including what to ask the centre, what to do at home, and what to watch out for. Look, if this video helped you today, please hit subscribe. There's so much more coming. And if you're in the middle of a biting situation right now, on either side, hang in there. This does pass, I promise. And as always, please don't forget, let's all walk in love and peace.